Hi all, Ross here, Thomas Classic and Modern. Welcome back to the channel. First of all, sincere apologies for the lack of content of late. I've been slowed up somewhat in work, which has meant I really haven't had much time to get any footage done. I had to have a small procedure on my shoulder following a car accident a few years back. Hopefully I'm on the up now from that. I'm still not quite 100% and treatment's ongoing, but fingers crossed we're on the up. So I thought I'd take this opportunity now to, first of all, thank you very, very much for being patient with me while there hasn't been much footage coming out. We will get it sorted. We have got some stuff filmed that we want to try and get out, but this is not part of the series of Project Tom, which unfortunately is sat very unloved over in the corner. Again, not had much time at all to get on with that, but we will get back with that soon. You know, hopefully we'll get some more footage out on the rest of that. But today, and it's going to be a long day for us, we're going to break this down into a series of videos for you guys, shorter videos, because otherwise you'll be here for probably 8 hours, and nobody really wants to do that, I dare say. Today, I'm actually taking the opportunity to work on my own car, Mouthy. I've just dragged it out of storage. I've not used it enough. However, I have to get this car done now, and I have to get it done for my wedding in August, because otherwise I've got no means of getting to the church. So I've got to pull my finger out. But I thought I'd do some footage on this one, because the work that I've got to do to this is general mechanical work, and it's all the sort of thing, again, that you guys might have to do yourselves. Ball joints. I'm actually going to put some brake pads in it as well, outer CV joints, wheel bearings, all that sort of thing. Might end up going so far as, we'll have a good look around it, might end up going so far as to take the lower arms off it, give them a clean up and a paint, put some new bushes in them as a matter of course. Same with the tie rods and tie rod bushes. All simplistic stuff that you might come across at home. So we will break this down into a series of videos and try and do it as little bite-sized bits. There will be some crossover because obviously, as you can imagine, I'm doing this as a whole. So therefore, we'll do the wheel bearings at the same time we do the ball joints. If it works out okay, we might put that out in the same video. If not, we'll break it down. Okay, so before I go removing my lovely MB Racing split rim, you can probably hear that's the play in the ball joint that we need to address. So if you don't know how to check your ball joints, that is it. 12 and 6. And what you want to do is you don't want to do this and pull and push. That's checking for a wheel bearing. What you want to do is sort of lift. It's a little bit of a knack, but if you pull and push, there's nothing there, look. Yeah? So there's no play in the wheel bearing at all whatsoever. But if you get to lift it, that's when you can get the play in the ball joint. And in this instance, it's in the top ball joint. So that's what we'll crack on with first of all. So let's get the wheel off. lift that up, and hopefully, and away she comes. And there we go. That's one hub off, and as you can see, that's our sloppy ball joint. Bottom one, lovely. Yeah, nothing wrong with that one at all. But top one definitely needs attention. Right, so slightly different tact from my part now. Benefit for you and kind of a benefit for me, really. As I said before, this bottom ball joint is okay, nothing much wrong with that in all honesty, and there was no play in it. Top one is knackered. For purposes of the video, and because it's something that people have asked for before, I am going to replace these ball joints, and I'm going to show you how I do them and how you can make your ball joints last like these have pretty much 19 years. Lots of people give ball joints bad press. They can't figure out how to do them. I've seen people put shims in wrong places and all sorts of problems. So what I'm going to do is I am going to strip these ball joints off this hub. I'll run through how you do that first of all, just in case you don't know. I'm also going to knock front wheel bearings out of this. Again, it hasn't had a set for a while. It gives me an opportunity. I've got the parts here. I've budgeted for the parts. It's my own car. I've already bought the parts. So from that point of view, I'm going to do it. And if you guys come along for the ride and you learn something about doing this at the same time, all the better. But yes, for those of you who will say there was no need to replace any of that, no, you're probably right. There probably wasn't. But guess what? I can. I've budgeted my time. I've budgeted my money. I bought all the parts. I'm going to do it anyway. So I guess realistically, my waste of time, effort, and money is to your advantage. So I'm going to box on and strip these ball joints out first of all, and then we'll give all of this a good clean up and a lick of paint and everything, as we usually do when we're always doing these anyway. So you need to get it in a decent vise, not a Black & Decker Workmate or something like that, or rolling around on a gravel floor. I know some of you, that is all you have to hand, and more power to you for doing it like that. But if you're going to get involved in any work like this, you need a vise, a decent bench, etc. Wipe that off so we can see what we're up against. So this is what the ball joint assembly looks like underneath all the grease, grime and rubbish. So you have the lock tab, the domed nut and the pin. So lock tab now we need to knock over, get that back out of the way, and then we'll strip this off. Okay, so there we go. That's both of those ball joints off that hub. Quick point to note. Something you should always check for when you're doing these. Not so much on the top one, but I need to clean that out anyway. You'll notice I've taken the lock tabs off now, and to do so you need to take grease nipples out. Again, we always replace those as a matter of course. You need to check that there is no damage in and around where the seat fits in there. So as you can see, this one looks perfect. I will just spin it around a second because it's usually much more prevalent on the bottom ball joint, which is the ball joint where the spring fits. And what tends to happen is people line them up, put the spring in place, and then forget to put the seat in properly, and it ends up binding up. So again, you get the damage around its seat area, where the seat itself around here, you might be able to pick this up in video, you might not. What happens is this seat should sit in the slot, and I've seen people when they put this seat in and they put the cup on, that seat is sort of off center, something like that, and it damages all of that outer rim. Basically that means the hub is technically scrap, but these are all good, no problem with that. Okay, so that is the main part of everything stripped. We now have the hub over there drying. That's had a little coat of etch primer and satin black. So ball joints, what can I say? Some people really struggle with it, some people find it really easy. I am just going to give you a run through of how I do ball joints. It's how I was always told to do them, it's how I've always done them, and in all honesty I've never had an issue with it. We only use good quality ball joint kits. We buy them from mini spares, and I will go through how and what we do, and more to the point, why. So, breaking open the ball joint kit, this is what you get. You get your cup or seat, your domed nut, your pin, new fixings, new rubbers, new lock tab, the spring for the bottom ball joint. I'll cover that in more detail when we come to it. A selection of shims, normally not enough, but we'll see how we go. As you can imagine, we've got umpteen number of used shims which are fine to reuse, and you get 2 of everything. That is a complete kit as just taken out of the packet, and that's the packet for the other side. So that's what you get. So what do we need to do to make these ball joints work correctly and last? First thing that we do is, there is, if you can pick that up in camera, a very small line just across that tapered area. Let's see if you can see that. If you can't, you certainly will in a minute, because that is the grease path. So when you squeeze grease into your joint, that is the path that allows the grease to pass through from the bottom to the top. What I always do is make that grease path deeper and slightly wider, and I will show you how we do that now. Pop that in the vise, not dogging it up, not massively tight, just so that the original grease path is just on the top there. what I use to alter that grease path, it's good old-fashioned Dremel. Yeah, can't survive without one of these. We use this for loads of different things. They're great with the little cutting discs on, etc. But as you can see, I've got a very small grindstone on there. I have put a new one in there for this. The last one flew off. Hopefully this one won't. But they're cheap as chips. You can buy these generically. And it's not working hard. So what we now need to do is sort of deepen and widen that groove. So we turn that on, get it up to a decent speed, and then all we need to do quite quickly make a decent wide grease path for the grease to come up from the bottom to the top. That's the first thing that we need to do. Get that out of the way a second. Second thing we need is the corresponding dome nut and the corresponding seat. So what we're essentially going to do here now is make this a matched set. And by that, what we're going to do is we are now going to lap this into this, those faces, and we're also going to lap the seat into the dome on the end, so those faces. That's the bit that gives you your swivel. So we get now good old-fashioned common and garden valve lapping paste and a drill. Fine valve lapping paste should be absolutely ample for this. And how we do this is we take our cup, we pop that in the vise across two of the flats, not massively tight, again, not dogging it up, just holding it there. Take a smear of your fine valve lapping paste and put it on this area here. So spread that around where you've just cut the grease path. So put a smear of that on there and pop it back through the cup as if it was fitted. We then get our cordless drill, pop the threaded part in the chuck and wind it up. Just nip it up. Again, you're not dogging the world up. And what we then do, I do this on low speed, we basically use the drill to lap that cup in and move it all around. Just like that. So lots of different movement. Keeping a little bit of pressure this way into the cup, all the way through its full range of movement. Be as random as you like. Imagine that this was on the car and that's the range of movement it's moving through. All the way around. And then undo that, take it out of the vise and then wash it thoroughly. You want all traces of that valve lapping paste gone. That's that. Good clean off. And then again, what you get is any burrs or anything like that knocked off the bottom seat cup area that runs in the seat. You now must keep these bits together as if you were doing a wheel bearing or some such like. They are now what I like to say is a match pair. You've lapped all of them into it together. And there we go, that's what the seat itself looks like. So as you can see, nicely lapped in, any high spots gone, ready to go. Well, that is how I like to prepare my ball joints ready for fitment. I'm going to do exactly the same now with the other set. And then hopefully by then the hub will be dry and we'll get on with fitting them and show you how we do that. So we've got our now painted hub in the vise, held on the caliper retaining ears. That's how I like to do them. Some people hold them on this and everything else, but I've never had an issue doing it that way, so that's the way I've always done it. So all I've done now is I've refitted our lock tabs with some new grease nipples. We're now going to get on with fitting our ball joint. So take one of our now matched pairs of ball joints. I like to put a small smear of grease on the cup first of all, the seat. Pop that in place. Like so, and then we take our shims. How I like to start doing these is I take the two thinnest, one of the medium, and one of the thickest. Pop them in place with the thinnest ones out. And I'll tell you why we do that now. Because this is an adjustment procedure, this is probably going to end up coming on and off like a hose draws. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you get it first trial, sometimes you don't. Little dab of grease on the seat. And a little dab of grease around the outside there. Pop that into place. This is where you have to be careful. How I like to do this is hold the ball joint like so. So you're holding the cup in one hand and the pin in another. Push the pin up against the seat, so that you know you are holding that seat in the recess we discussed earlier on. And then with your other hand, wind down the domed nut. When you get so far down, you'll feel it pick up generally on the pin. Oh, there we go. And then torque that nut up. Some people just tighten this up and then check it. I never do, I always torque it. What's the point in just nipping that up, going, yeah, that's fine, then torquing it, and it changes it. So always torque that up. And the torque for that big dome nut is 102 Newton meters, which is there. Again, make sure that the pin is in the middle of the socket. Jammed up solid. Way too tight means we need more shims. As we have lapped in these parts, and match them to each other, having more shims in situ is actually a very good thing, because you've already taken out any high spots, etc., while you've done the lapping in process. So in theory, you've taken out a certain amount of mileage, if you like, of these ball joints out of the package, which means that the more shims you fit, the more adjustment you have in the future. Because obviously to tighten these ball joints back up in the future, should you need them, you need to remove shims. So if you've got plenty of shims in there, you've got much more adjustment for the future. Now this is all of the shims that come in the packet. Still going to be a bit too tight. Now that's torqued. So, next question. How do we determine whether it's too tight or it's too loose? Lots of people say, oh, push it with your thumb, you know, and this, that, and the other. I might have stronger thumbs than you. You might not have a thumb. I don't know. So, what's the by and large way to do it? I take a 9/16 spanner, drop it over the ring, and if I can move that ball joint without absolutely honking on it, yeah, that, in my eyes, is absolutely spot on. Full range of movement, no tight spots. Bearing in mind that you've only got in there the little bit of smear of grease that I put in there. That is spot on. Moves absolutely lovely. And that is torqued. So that is done. That is fine. That is torqued up. That is how it is. It's not going to bed in too much because obviously we've already lapped it in. There's no grease in there, so a little bit of grease in there now. When we fill it full of grease, spot on. So all I do now, just recheck that the torque is correct. Spot on. Knock the lock tabs over. That one is done. But what we now need to do is, as I just said, I've only done the upper ball joint there, and I'm now out of shims. So when you come to do your ball joints, don't throw away the old shims. We are now going to need to go through our old shims, clean them up, make sure we got a good mixture of sizes of shims, some thick, some thin, so on and so forth, and then we need to do the bottom one. I'll now knock that lock tab over. I'll pop the boot and the nut on the top of it so I know it's all done. I'm going to spin this round in the vise so it's easier for you to see, and then we're going to do the bottom one. Lock tabs, another important thing. Do not knock all of this lock tab up against that nut. Not the right way to do it. How I like to do it is I do two opposites if I can. Now as this one has fallen, this flat is right towards the back, so that's absolutely fine. So we shall knock that one over. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Nice, easy range of movement. But you have to now take that back apart to put the spring in. So, a little bit more care needed here now when you come to do this. So, get the spring ready. Need to make sure that when you take this cup off, you don't take any of the shims off, that they're not stuck to the bottom of the cup or anything like that, which they're not. You now need to take the seat back out, and then you need to add the spring. So the spring now goes in, and this is where people can get problems, because as you can see, or you might be able to see, that spring now is sat quite proud. There's quite a lot of tension on that spring when you get it fitted. You have to make sure now that this seat sits in its recess. There's only a very small amount of the recess left now for that seat to go in. So that is in the seat. You then need to make sure, and this is why I do this with the pin, you need to make sure that the pin is pushing against that seat to hold it in situ. So you're up against the tension of the spring. Sometimes you can push against it and feel that little bit of spring. And then wind your dome nut back on. And you will find, if you're holding the pin, you'll find that when you're winding the dome nut back on, just like that, it'll start to grip the pin very early, because now you're up against the spring tension. Then retorque it, done, and just recheck, and you'll probably find now it feels a little bit tighter, because obviously you've got the spring slightly pushing against that, yeah, which it is, which is absolutely fine, as long as you can still move it, you know, when you're moving it without honking on it and everything else. That is spot on. Happy with that. Just recheck the torque. And then knock the lock tab over on that one. In this case, I will go with this front one here, near the disc face, and the one dead opposite it. We are done. On with the rubber, on with the nut and washer. I only do that as a matter of course, so I know my process is done. I know once everything is fitted, that is done and sorted. So there we go. I think we shall leave that there now. That is our way of doing ball joints. Hope you find it useful. By all means, fire down in the comments if you think there's something wrong with that, or you know, you do it differently. More than happy to hear. As I say, I've been doing it that way now for a number of years, never had any issues. As you saw when we first stripped this, that is how those ball joints were done all of those years ago, and even then the bottom one was still in fine fettle. Top one would have just adjusted going by the number of shims in it. But as I say, I've taken the opportunity to show you how we go about doing it from start to finish. Our next little bit now, which we'll do separately, will be wheel bearing. So we'll do a separate video now on fitting the wheel bearing assembly, and then we'll also encompass in that one rebuilding the drive shaft and getting everything back in place, I think. So as I say, hope you enjoyed that. As always, please give us a like and subscribe. If there is anything that you would like to see a video on and you would find it useful or anything along those lines, please drop us a comment, let us know. we'll try and cover it somewhat. We have a load of videos now, hopefully coming out in quite quick succession on running gear repairs such as this. So yeah, look out for those, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.